Hello everyone, it is Jayden and welcome to The Alpha, the show where we talk about the hottest topics in pop culture and sports. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button on the video. And if you enjoy my commentary and myself truly as always, be sure to tap that subscribe button and to hit that notification bell to get notified when all my videos go live. I love you guys so much. Peace, love, and positivity always, y'all. See ya. And we are going to move on to the NFL draft. I know you guys are well aware of my thoughts on the draft. Y'all know I made a video about it. I made a live stream. I just released a video about the Cowboys draft. So you get a gist of what I thought about the Cowboys draft. Now like I said in the last podcast, now we're going to get my overall thoughts on the draft itself. And I'm not really going to talk about the picks because that's not the juicy stuff, okay? We are going to talk about the main man in the story, and that is obviously Mr. Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur Sanders was part of, one can argue, the most egregious, surprising, and historic events in the history of the NFL. Shedeur Sanders was projected to be took in the first round. A lot of people, most people, had Shedeur as the top two quarterbacks in the NFL draft. Without no debate, without no questioning. Field Yates, he was number 2 on Field Yates' big board, but with Mel Kiper had the Godfather Mel Kiper. He had Shedeur as the top prospect going into the draft at quarterback. Ladies and gentlemen, Shedeur Sanders wasn't taken first by the Titans. A lot of people knew that was going to be Cam Ward. He wasn't taken second by the Jaguars, which it was the Browns, so they traded with the Jaguars, which the Jaguars don't need a quarterback, so that was a given. Third, he wasn't taken by the Giants. Number 9 pick, Derek Carr's hurt. Everybody's saying that they're looking to get a quarterback. He wasn't picked by the Saints at number 9. Number 20 or 21. The Pittsburgh Steelers obviously need a quarterback. They lost Russell Wilson. They lost Justin Fields. What happens? The Steelers pass up on Shedeur. And after that, I was shocked. And we were like, Shedeur is going to fall out of the first round. Then we got a surprise. The Giants trade back into the first round with the Rams at the 26th pick. And I was like, okay, this has got to be Shedeur. Ladies and gentlemen, they picked Jackson Dart. So 2 quarterbacks were already off the board in round 1. Did we go into day 2? I went to the beach with my girlfriend, so obviously I was watching while we were at the beach. I was obviously tuned in. I watched it while I was traveling to the beach, while I was on the beach, and on the way back from the beach, because I was waiting to see when he was going to get drafted. Going into day 2, everybody was like, okay. Actually, no, we're talking about Friday. So Friday, I was actually at work. I was actually calling a baseball game. So I hope my boss ain't seeing this video, but yes, I had my phone on the baseball field and I was looking at it in between innings because I was ready to see who was going to pick Shedeur, because Shedeur was arguably going to be an early pick in the second round. So with the first pick that Cleveland had, passed on Shedeur. The Saints are up to pick again at 40. They pick up Tyler Shuck. Shedeur gets past the second round. Third round, Jalen Milroe is drafted before Shedeur Sanders by Seattle. And I was like, oh my Lord, what is going on? Did we get into day 3? Shedeur drops in the first 3 rounds after being projected to be a first round pick and beginning second round pick at worst. Shedeur fell to the 4th round of the NFL draft and day 3. Unprecedented. And this is where we're back to the beach. I'm traveling to the beach. I'm interested to see where Shedeur goes all day. Shedeur gets past the 4th round of the draft. Ladies and gentlemen, Shedeur Sanders was drafted in the 5th round, the 144th pick of the draft. Mind you, Dillon Gabriel was drafted by the Browns before Shedeur was. Shedeur Sanders was the 6th quarterback taken in this NFL draft when he was ranked by everyone in the NFL as a top 3 to 2, 3 at worst, 2 at best prospect in this draft. Never heard of, unprecedented. Why exactly did Shedeur slip the way he did? I will tell you why he slipped. Because Shedeur, me personally, I'm thinking the way the executives probably think. Shedeur has some off-the-field stuff that turns people off. This had nothing to do with Shedeur's on-the-field play. I don't care what executive is telling you that. I know there's a lot of people in the NFL space that is saying right now that Shedeur Sanders is not very talented enough and wasn't talented enough to be taken in the 1st round. I get it. But you're trying to tell me right now that Shedeur Sanders, talent-wise, with that Colorado offense that he had, with that horrible offensive line that he had, that Shedeur Sanders was not worthy of a 2nd-round pick? 3rd at worst? In what way in the combine film did Tyler Shuck and Dillon Gabriel look better than Shedeur Sanders? Even Jalen Milroe. And I've watched Jalen Milroe a lot. Jalen Milroe is a Lamar Jackson type of prospect. Jalen Milroe is that prospect that he is either going to be excellent in the future or he is going to be absolutely terrible. His throwing, his passing game is super inconsistent, but my lord, can he run with the football? He could possibly be Justin Fields 2.0 in this league. He's one of those prospects. If he's able to get his throwing and passing down, Jalen Milroe can be a great prospect. So could I possibly flirt with the idea of Jalen Milroe going ahead of Shedeur? Obviously, went to Alabama, had an elite passing game, played for Nick Saban. I get it. I would have understood that one, but I'm not going to understand Dillon Gabriel and Tyler Shuck. Tyler Shuck, to me, was the absolute most egregious one. By a landslide. Easily, 100%. But I will tell you why Shedeur Sanders slipped. Off the field. The podcast. The social media. The music video. Busting down my AP. Perfect timing. The Twitch streams. I, for one, was very turned off by that. I don't understand why you're live streaming you getting drafted. There's really no problem with it. There's not. It's just in my personal opinion, me personally, I wouldn't want a quarterback to be doing that. Not live, in a more should be private moment. I don't agree with that. And I imagine a lot of NFL executives and owners didn't like that as well. And another reason, too, is Deion Sanders. Shedeur has played with Deion as his head coach his whole life. Shedeur has not been coached by anybody else. A lot of owners looked at it as Deion has coached him his whole life. How is he going to be able to adapt to somebody else coaching him, our head coach? How is he going to adapt to Brian Daboll coaching him? How is he going to be able to adapt to Kevin Stefanski coaching him? Mike Tomlin. That's what owners were thinking about. They didn't think that Shedeur could handle it. Because this leads into this next aspect of it. Reportedly, Shedeur Sanders' pre-game draft interviews were horrible. The thing that the tweet that Tom Pelissero came out with a week before the draft about an anonymous source, and people were killing Tom Pelissero for it, it is not Tom Pelissero's fault. The reports the statement that Tom Pelissero released from an executive stand that he was arrogant in his interviews. He acted like he knew everything. You couldn't really critique him. Well, buddy, was there not more truth in that interview that we... Sorry, let me restate it this way. I'm over here getting too animated. Was that interview, what that dude said, not true because it was put on display in the draft? It was a statement by the league. They looked at Shedeur. It said, dude, you're not that good to be doing what you're doing, and you could possibly bring a headache to the locker room and to this organization, and we don't need it. Guys, teams passed on him 4 times. I was even going to sit here and think a team like maybe Dallas could just draft him and take him out of the hands of Pittsburgh, Cleveland. Because, guys, Cleveland already drafted a quarterback. They already drafted Dillon Gabriel. And because Cleveland in the 5th round, they traded up to get Shedeur. They didn't have to even wait. They traded up to go get Shedeur. That's what makes this so egregious. So essentially, Cleveland is going to have Joe Flacco compete for the job. Kenny Pickett, Dillon Gabriel, and Shedeur. That is a big QB room. Obviously, they have no faith in Deshaun Watson. They are easily... Deshaun Watson's career with Cleveland is over with, and there is a chance that Deshaun Watson's career period is over. But that's another argument for another day. Shedeur didn't help himself. And I know people were trying to paint this about race. It has nothing to do with that. Guys, can we stop with this? The first pick in this draft was an African-American. Cam Ward. Easily the best quarterback in this draft. By far. Can we stop this? Lamar Jackson's thriving in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes is thriving in the NFL. And a plethora of other quarterbacks. Can we stop it? Bryce Young, 1st round pick 2 years ago. Caleb Williams last year. What more do you need? This has nothing to do with that. What this has to do with is a kid that knows who his father is, who has that same attitude that his father has in his game, and he took that with him to the negotiation part of the draft, and it came back to bite him because guess what, Shedeur, you are nowhere near as talented or as good as your dad was. Shannon told a story. Deion had an interview with, I think it was the Giants or somebody at one point in the pre-draft interview. Deion looked at him and said, "Where you drafting?" And they told him. Deion said, "I'm not going to be available." You didn't have that cachet, big dog. I'm sorry. Coming out of Florida State, Deion was that guy. Deion was the man. Shedeur, you just wasn't that. Do I think if you played at a bigger university, could you have had that cachet? Absolutely, because you could have went to Alabama. You could have went to any D1 school that you wanted to. You decided to go to Jackson State with your dad. Do you transfer to Colorado to get that Power 5 cachet under your belt? Play 2 years at Colorado. You get your jersey retired. You put up 4,000 yards. You're in the Heisman conversation. You in, I think, 3rd in finalist voting last year. But still, at the end of the day, you didn't have that type of cachet to be able to run up to an organization like the Giants, per se, and look at them. Or no, let's not say the Giants. That's not a good example to use. Go up to the Steelers in a pre-draft interview when they need a quarterback, and you go up and tell them, "Where you picking?" The Steelers look at you and say 21, and you're going to be like, I ain't going to be there. Just screw it. And I know a lot of people were turned off by his attitude and the way that he talked in his pre-draft, especially on live television. Obviously, the live television interviews and the behind-the-scenes interviews with the teams, they're different. But me personally, with what Shedeur had to say on the microphone and the podium, I didn't have nothing wrong with it. You want that quarterback with that attitude that comes in there and says, "Hey, if you don't want a quarterback who's going to change your culture and win you a championship, don't draft me." I don't have no problem with it. He has that attitude. He has the pride. He believes in himself. He really thinks that he is going to be a great quarterback in the league. He really thinks he's going to get the job done and be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He has that attitude. I have no problem with it. I really don't. I want my quarterback to have that attitude. But there's got to be a realistic. We got to be realistic at some point, though. You just can't go up in your pre-draft interviews and be so arrogant, brash, and come off as uncoachable. There's a difference between knowing who you are and knowing that you're good, but and in the same breath, you can't be uncoachable. What they said with Brian Daboll specifically, this was released as well. They said essentially that Shedeur was asked a question and Brian Daboll was critiquing him, and Shedeur didn't like the way he was being critiqued. He didn't retaliate in a respectful and coachable player attitude. He just basically acted like Daboll didn't know what he was talking about or didn't agree with what Daboll. He wasn't, at the end of the day, he wasn't acting coachable. You can't do that. There's no coach. I don't care who you are. You could be Tom Brady yourself coming out of the draft, even though at that time, Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. Obviously, he didn't have the cachet Shedeur does, so let's not use him. Caleb Williams, per se. Even with Caleb Williams' cachet, you cannot be uncoachable. You got to be coachable, because at the end of the day, you are a rookie. The NFL and college is 2 different games. You played for a Power 5, but you didn't play SEC competition, where scouts and a lot of executives compare to the NFL per se. The Big Ten, well, the Big Ten's getting there to a certain degree, but Big 12 and ACC football is not the same as Big 10 and SEC football. Big 12 football and ACC has a long way to go in comparison to SEC and Big 10 football. So Shedeur, you played in the HBCU college. I think it was the SWAC conference, and then you played in the Big 12. 2 of the worst. One, obviously you won. I think they ended up winning a championship with Jackson State, and then you translate into the Power 5. You get you transfer to one of the worst Power 5 conferences in college football. You just can't do it, Shedeur. You didn't help yourself out. Deion didn't help out, because Deion started it. Deion said, when even Shedeur was still in college, and he was giving these interviews and, talking about these teams, and he's talking about, oh, my son ain't going to be there. He ain't going to be there at 20. He ain't going here. He's not going to the Browns. He's not going here. He's not going there. That's rubbing the owners off the wrong way. Because what happened if you drafted Shedeur in the first round for the Giants, if they drafted Shedeur number 3? You're going to have to deal with Shedeur and the baggage that he brings alongside Deion. And owners didn't want to deal with that. If you guys were able to see, which I'm going to put it right here, if you guys just see Kevin Stefanski and the GM of the Browns face when they drafted Shedeur, it is like they just got done getting fired. I wouldn't even say that. That's a little worse, because they were clapping. But it's like at an event that you're at that you don't want to be at, but yet you're going along with the clapping and whatever's going on just so you can look like you're enjoying it. It's like going with your girlfriend to a ballet and knowing you don't want to be there, because I can speak with this from experience. I was at a ballet with my girlfriend. I didn't want to be there. But guess what? I acted like I enjoyed it, and I had that same face that Kevin Stefanski and the GM of the Browns was having. They didn't want to do it. I know it came up from the top. It came up from the owner. They wanted nothing to do with Shedeur. And what is Shedeur's outlook with the Browns? I don't know. I don't think he's going to be a day 1 starter. He's going to have to work for the job. I think Kevin Stefanski and the Browns are obviously going to go with Joe Flacco to start off with, but it's going to be him versus Dylan Gabriel. And if he cannot beat out Dylan Gabriel, holy cow. But Shedeur has a chip on his shoulder. He's already working out in Cleveland. He was at the facility 2 days ago. He was at a school giving out many speeches before before he was giving out speeches at a private school, so he's already interacting with the community. He's already locked in. But I just don't want it to be for show. Shedeur needs to do it because he wants to be great. He needs to do it because he wants to prove his haters wrong, and he needs to do it from his desires of his heart, not to put on a show for social media. That's the problem with social media these days. You cannot know if you're getting an accurate representation of a person when stuff like that is posted on the internet. You don't know if it's for show or they actually are there to work. We all know what these stupid videos that Ashton Hall posts. I have nothing wrong with him. He's a content creator. He's getting his grind in. I'm not hating the player. You got to hate the game. But we all know that a lot of his stuff is for show. I mean, my God, he's posting a video of him running outside with weighted gear on with a darn dog. Really? Do you really think he does that on a daily basis behind the scenes? No. He's doing that for views and he's doing that for clicks. That is what some people probably think about Shedeur. Yeah, you're posting your workouts in Cleveland. Yeah, you're posting your videos, you speaking to the kids in Cleveland. You posting yourself at the facility. We get it. But when the owner looks at that, do they think they don't know if you're for real or if that's for show? That is something, that's the type of baggage you're having to bring with Shedeur, along with the social media stuff, which what we were already saying, along with the music videos, the Twitch streams, all of that comes with Shedeur. And owners weren't buying it. They wasn't buying what Shedeur was selling. And that's where I'm at with the Shedeur stuff. It was historic. It was wrong what was did to Shedeur. I know everything I made was sounding negative, but I really think Shedeur should have been I think the Pittsburgh Steelers should have drafted him at 21. Because I believe in Shedeur. I know I'm talking about real negatively about him right now, but me personally, I think Shedeur has what it takes to win. I just think that he doesn't have the talent to be able to back it up like his dad used to do, but it's his character. It's him. You cannot apologize for who he is. Shedeur is that way. Shedeur should not apologize for how he is. Shedeur, you keep doing you. I just want you to back it up on the football field. What was done to him was absolutely egregious, but there was a reason to it, and I want people to understand that. Actions come with consequences. Shedeur has actions, the pre-draft interviews, the social media stuff, Twitch streams, all that. He got his consequence. He ended up slipping and being part of the most and worst historic event in NFL draft history, worst slide in NFL draft history, unprecedented. And it was very disheartening to see, and it was bad. Let me know what y'all guys think about the Shedeur Sanders stuff. Let me know down below in the comments. Let me know what you think. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Let me know down below in the comments.